My name is Adianas, and this is Sprint 2 of my engine. From last week, you noticed that I had static for my private functions and my singletons. It was just a mistake, but I got rid of those for this week, so now they're no longer static. The only things that are static are the public functions, and that goes for all of the singletons that I had accidentally put that in. And the model manager and texture manager no longer have default textures, because those are the ones defined by the user. So in load resources is where the user loads in the models and textures that they want, along with the defaults. So these two functions are empty now, but the shader manager does still have default shaders. I also set the default camera here, which is easier, and also set the start scene. So what else is there to show? For new things this week, I have the camera manager, which is pretty basic. Again, another singleton where I set the default camera, get the current camera, and then terminate. Later on, I'm going to want a create camera function, where the user defines which kind of camera they want, along with the parameters of being able to change the orientation and position. But for now, the default camera is just what I copied over from the GAM374. So it's the same one pointing at the spaceship. I can return the current camera, and then when I call terminate, I delete the camera and the instance of itself. And load resources is what's setting up that default camera in the first place. And whenever I need to render to the camera, I call it from the object that needs to be drawn. So let's say in the user files the frigate here. Under draw is where I can render to the camera manager, get current camera. For my game objects, they're pretty bare bones and simple, as expected for now, but they have their initialize, update, and draw because they derive from updatables and drawables. And those are overloaded by the user, so we'll see here in frigate. The update is overloaded with what was in the game.cpp. Same thing with draw. We render to the current camera here. And since I chose to go with option 1, every game object has to derive from updatable and drawable. Though I'm starting not to like this method, so I'll probably change this by next sprint, since it seems more beneficial to only have objects compile what they need to be. So if I only need something to be drawn, it just needs to be drawable. So that probably seems more beneficial, but it shouldn't be too much of a change. And for my updatable and drawables, they're pretty simple as well. They don't do anything except call the respective function that they need to. So they're all just a pass through to the actual object, which is where the user defines what actually happens within those functions. For my scene object, pretty basic, but I have initialize, terminate, update, and draw, and those are overloaded by the user. So here in the first scene, and my private is where I override these functions, as well as create my pointers to my objects. So if I go here, upon initialization, I create those objects, call update on the things I need to update, and draw on the things I need to draw, and terminate deletes these objects, which in turn call their own destructors and delete the relevant pointers. And terminate on the scene is called by the scene manager, which is singleton as well. I can set the start scene, initialize the start scene, get the current scene, and terminate as well. So go here. We can set the start scene, set the current scene, initialize the scene, return it, and then terminate it. So again, under load resources, we can set the first scene. And I have these as two separate functions because I want to separate the initialization from setting the start scene. But what that does in my game.cpp or engine.cpp now, all I do is just call update on the current scene and draw on the current scene, and it's pretty much good to go. This is all completely free of user code now. All I do is initialize load resources and then do the respective functions for my scene, and then I terminate all of my managers here. And main, of course, now just calls the engine run, since that really just calls run on the engine here. And then these are my accessors from my engine now that it's a singleton. And that's pretty much all I have for this week. Was able to get everything done, but there's still some things I want to clean up. And again, change my option to virtual inheritance for my game objects. But yeah, thanks for watching.